Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here and welcome to B-Ball Breakdown. If you haven't already heard on Twitter, I have officially joined the SB Nation YouTube network. And what does that mean? Well, basically it'll be B-Ball Breakdown like you know and love on steroids. We're going to have a lot more access to a lot of other really cool content and stuff, so stay tuned for the best year we're ever going to have for B-Ball Breakdown. That said, our new show I'm announcing is Sunday, 5:15 Pacific. Every Sunday at that time, we're going to have B-Ball Breakdown's Effin' Fantasy Show with SB Nation's fantasy guru, Tom Lorenzo, and me going over that week and how to set up your lineup. So if you are a fantasy NBA guy, it will be the must-watch show of the week. That will also live on my channel after Sunday, but you're going to want to watch it live. Well, let's get into it. I went through 97 Game 6, the Bulls clincher against the Utah Jazz for their 5th NBA championship. And there's a real shocking no call that I don't remember them ever really going over or having anyone talk about much. And I'm going to show you what that is if you stick with the breakdown, because had the call been made, it would have most likely changed the outcome of this game and could have conceivably changed the history of the NBA as we know it since 1997. While most people think Stockton Malone was a pick and roll, just as common was a cross screen for Malone in the post where he can go to work. In this series, it was certainly very common to watch him miss as well. And watch one of Stockton's pet moves. He brings the ball up like he's going to set the offense up and then boom, crosses over and gets right to the basket for a layup. A key matchup was Hornacek having to guard Pippen. And Pippen wasted no time going to work off of the pinch post, which turns into a post-up in the low block and a turnaround jumper. Hornacek couldn't stop it. And in transition, they'd waste no time getting Pippen the ball in the low block where he can go to work against Hornacek. The Bulls ran the triangle consistently well, and here instead of the pinch post, Michael Jordan's going to flare wide, and that turns into an ISO for him against Brian Russell, something he had much success with this year and next. And don't forget the Bulls rented Brian Williams for a few games at the end of the year in the playoffs before he became Bison Daly and got lost on a boat, presumed dead. Here, a great jab step to the middle and a dunk on Ostertag. Meanwhile on Utah, they had a pure shooter in Jeff Hornacek that was just knocked down. And did you know that touching his face before his free throw was his way of saying hello to his kids? And the Ophie crew cut guy in the post for the Jazz was Greg Ostertag. Look at this running hook 50 style. And watch how beautiful the triangle is. High post, they have a UCLA cut, and then Rodman's going to screen the ball. When the ball swings, it's going to then form a traditional triangle with a low post. And when the ball goes to the corner, that triggers a screen and roll. And eventually it'll swing back twice. Look at all the passing and the movement. And when they get the ball to Kukoc, he can drive and get a foul. Beautiful. The Jazz tried to pick on Steve Kerr's defense as much as they could, and Steve was valiant in his attempt at trying to put pressure, but the Jazz would get good shots out of this, and the Bulls could only hope they would miss. There were certain Jazz players the Bulls defense was very concerned about. Certainly Greg Foster's outside shooting was not one of those concerns, and here's a beautiful outlet pass by Brian Williams for a dunk. The Bulls didn't double often in the post, but they had to in this series, and Kukoc should be over more. He would have been in better position to stop that layup. Let's look at why the high screen and roll is so devastating. Because it takes place in the middle of the floor, it's hard to figure out how to rotate. This should be Tony Kukoc on the weak side coming over, and then Jordan would rotate on his man. Instead, Pippen rotates over, leaving his man one pass away wide open. Jerry Sloan continually attacked Steve Kerr whenever he was in there, and Stockton either tried to beat him off the dribble or get a screen from Malone, and there wasn't much answer by the Bulls. Again, watch the beauty of the high post triangle, which turns into a screen and roll. They swing the ball. Here we have a low post triangle, and when they screen for Michael Jordan, he's wide open for a three. And even when they did ISO with Michael on top, it was always out of the triangle offense after a certain amount of passes and the ball would move. This made it very difficult for defenses to key on him, and when you have that much movement, the defense has some openings and he can get in there and then also facilitate for other players like Tony Kukoc. The Bulls center was Australian Luke Longley, who was pretty brutal for much of this series. The Bulls defense keyed on Stockton and Malone, forcing him into bad shots, and when Michael gets the air ball rebound, it takes him only 6 dribbles and a beautiful inside out to get to the hoop. While we're used to seeing Stockton pass to Malone, watch Malone in the low post hit John Stockton on a beautiful backdoor cut layup. And again, Michael really made the triangle work for him by, instead of going to the pinch post, he flared out wide and became an ISO. All that extra movement opens up lanes for his teammates to put putbacks in the basket. The Bulls try to double team Howard Eisley as much as they can because he turned his back, and the Jazz can do two things. They can hit the middle and attack the basket from a pass, or they can go to the wing and then attack the baseline, which is what they do here for a layup. And this time they're able to get Pippen doubling Eisley on the wing, and they rotate much better here and get a steal with Michael Jordan, which ends up being a slam dunk. I still can't get over how consistent the Bulls are running their offense. On the sideline out of bounds, they're always going to try and attack Scottie Pippen in the post against Hornacek, and he gets an and one. This game was a grinded out affair, and the low score indicates that there's a lot of fouling and a lot of really good defense. So as the shot clock wound down at the end of the third quarter, the Bulls were desperate for a shot. Michael couldn't get anything going off of this long contested shot, but there's Judd Bushler with a three, improbably, and that got the Bulls going a little bit. Through three quarters, you could see it was a grind out affair, not a lot of scoring, and the fourth quarter would be no different. In 1997, zone defense was not allowed, and the Jazz complained bitterly about the way the Bulls were defending like a zone. Here's an offense they run with Malone in the post, but they're also trying to get the refs to call a zone defense, which is not the way to go because now you're relying on the referee to make a call. They do get a foul and free throws here. Here's the beauty of pinch post. Kukoc can get the ball in the high post here, and Scottie Pippen can read the defense. If he's trailing, he'll curl hard. He can also go up high and get a pitch up high, and here he attacks the basket and gets a foul. And watch this, Kerr will feed the post. He could cut to the basket, or he could screen at the elbow and pop out. Stockton's much too far away. The Jazz go to their traditional sideline screen and roll with Stockton and Malone, and that ultimately gets Stockton into the lane, but there's Pippen coming over, and Anderson's going to have to be tougher with that shot and try and maybe dunk it or lay it up better. Instead, Pippen comes right back down and nails a huge three, and they make a run with Michael on the bench. You can see the Bulls were keying on both Stockton and Malone, and Scottie would try and double team any chance he got. And watch the superb rotation by the Bulls defense. Even Kukoc is getting in on the action, and Steve Kerr ultimately has to take Stockton by himself on top and does a pretty good job of forcing him into a miss. And here's the other version of Stockton to Malone, where Stockton will feed Malone in the post and cut. Great pass fake by Karl and a turnaround, but he couldn't make that shot consistently in the fourth quarter. Down by two, without Michael on the floor, they run the corner option, the fourth option, which is a screen and roll in the corner, and Scottie's job is to screen Steve Kerr's man, gets him open for a three. Huge shot. Frustrated by all the double teaming, the Jazz put three guys above the free throw line to force the Bulls into being honest on defense. And here they get the ball after a rip screen to Karl Malone on the left block, and he does an old school sweeping hook into the lane. Again, to avoid a double team, they go to an old 2-1-2 set, hitting the ball in the middle. But here comes Scottie on a beautiful block, even though that was terrific offense by the Jazz. But Pippen wasn't perfect. Sometimes he gambled too much and got out of position. And here's a beautiful pass by Stockton and a good finish by Shandon Anderson. And again, Scottie loses track of his man trying to help on the Stockton drive, but Shandon Anderson blows that layup. Sheesh, is that bad? And Michael Jordan's back in the game and hits a pull-up jumper for a 1-point Bulls lead. The Jazz were not going to screw around and went right to Malone in the post. Two guys just standing there hoping maybe for another illegal defense. But there, when you have Malone making shots like this, you don't need much offense. And the Jazz love to have their guards come across and set really tough cross screens for big men. It gets Hornacek wide open, but a bad pass by Malone. But look at that save by Hornacek behind the back, and it leads to a three. Same exact play, although this time Malone opts to do a turnaround fadeaway jump shot, a shot he missed early and often in the game. To show you that Michael Jordan didn't get every call, with a tie game on an ISO on the left side, he gets to the hoop, gets bumped, but no call. And now here's the crucial call of the game that could have changed the NBA's fortunes forever. Beautiful bounce pass, and watch Pippen grab the rim and yank it. That forces that ball to miss. Without question, it's got to be a goaltending call. The refs completely missed it. So instead of being up by two, it's tied, and now the Bulls have a chance to win it at home with Michael ISO. Of course, here comes John Stockton to double, and Steve Kerr, the one guy you don't want to leave open, nails the jumper. So let's look at the issue here. Hornacek decides to go toward Tony Kukoc, who's 3 passes away, instead of the 1 pass away Steve Kerr. That's the rotation they blew. On the final play, Kerr does a nice job getting around that screen, and Stockton can't get the ball, and Shandon Anderson wants nothing to do with this play, as far away from the ball as he can be. Scottie steps right in beautifully, tips it to Kukoc, and Kukoc dunks it, and they start celebrating.
Championship in the last 7 years. Just 0.6 of a second remaining. It's a 4-point lead. There will now probably they'll say now it's over.